Welcome to the channel for my Premier League predictions. Game week 17. Game week 16 came with some shocking and unbelievable results. Manchester United getting a last-minute comeback to win 2-1 against Manchester City at the Etihad was nothing but hilarious. Chelsea got a 2-1 victory over Brentford, which in that game I got a spot on predicted. Similar with Liverpool getting a 2-2 draw at Anfield with Fulham. That game too I got a spot on predicted in game 16. Going to game 17, I'm looking out for spot on predictions. My name is Andy Finer. My like target for this video is just 100 likes. Like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts and your predictions at the comment section. Without wasting much of your time, let's get into the game 17 predictions. Yeah, so starting with the first game in game week 17 at the Villa Park, which is an early kickoff, is between Aston Villa versus Manchester City. Looking at the standing, Manchester City at the moment, they are 5th on the Premier League table with 27 points out of 16 games. Aston Villa too is at the moment 7th on the Premier League table with 25 points out of 16 games. Game week 16, Aston Villa lost 2-1 against Nottingham Forest. Manchester City also lost 2-1 against Manchester United. And both games ended in a similar scenario. It was a last-minute comeback that both teams were defeated. So going into this game in game 17, Aston Villa hosting Manchester City at the Villa Park is going to be an interesting and a tough game. We all know Manchester City is not getting the results and they are struggling this season. So going into this game at early kickoff, I think this is where the surprise lies, because last season Manchester City lost this game. And going into this game, I'm predicting a win for Aston Villa. My prediction for this game, Aston Villa 2, Manchester City 1. Yes, moving on to the next game in game week 17 is between Brentford versus Nottingham Forest. Looking at the league table, Brentford at the moment, they are 11th on the Premier League table with 23 points out of 16 games, and Nottingham Forest too is now 4th on the Premier League table with 28 points out of 16 games. 4th against 11th. Going into this game is going to be an interesting game at the G-Tech Community Stadium. And going into this game, in game week 16, Brentford got a 2-1 loss against Chelsea. Nottingham Forest also got a 2-1 victory over Aston Villa in game week 16. Going into this game in game week 17 is going to be a tough game. We all know Brentford this season, they only get the result from their home matches. And going into this game against Forest side, who has been a surprise package for almost everything this season. Going into this game, I'm predicting a tight draw. I'm predicting a 2-2 draw. Brentford 2, Nottingham Forest 2. Yeah, so moving on to the next game in game week 17 is between Ipswich Town versus Newcastle. In game week 16, Ipswich Town got their second victory in the season, 2-1 victory over Wolves. And Newcastle United also got a 4-0 over Leicester City in game week 16. Looking at the league table, Newcastle at the moment, they are 12th on the Premier League table with 23 points out of 16 games. Ipswich Town too is now 18th on the Premier League table with 12 points out of 16 games. Going to this game in game week 17 is going to be an interesting game. I'm predicting Newcastle United to get a 3-1 victory over Ipswich Town. Newcastle United 3, Ipswich Town 1. Yes, moving on to the next game in game week 17 is between West Ham United versus Brighton. Looking at the league table, West Ham at the moment, they are 14th on the Premier League table with 19 points out of 16 games. Looking at Brighton too, Brighton is now 9th on the Premier League table with 23 points out of 16 games. In game week 16, Brighton lost 3-1 against Crystal Palace, and West Ham United also got a 1-1 draw against AFC Bournemouth in game week 16. Going into this game at the London Stadium in game week 17 is going to be an exciting encounter. I'm predicting West Ham United to get a 2-1 victory over Brighton. West Ham United 2, Brighton 1. Yes, moving on to the next game at the Selhurst Park is between Crystal Palace versus Arsenal. Looking at the league table, Arsenal is now third on the Premier League table with 30 points out of 16 games. Looking at Crystal Palace, they are also 15th on the Premier League table with 16 points out of 16 games. In game week 16, Crystal Palace got a 3-1 victory over Brighton, and Arsenal drew 0-0 against Everton in game week 16. Into this game at the Selhurst Park in game week 17 is going to be a very classic game because both teams in the midweek had a head-to-head in the League Cup, and Aston got a 3-2 victory over Crystal Palace. But going to this game, I'm predicting this game to end in a tight draw. I'm predicting a 2-2 draw. Arsenal 2, Crystal Palace 2. Just moving on to the next game at the Goodison Park is between Everton versus Chelsea. Looking at the league table, Chelsea at the moment they are second on the Premier League table with 34 points out of 16 games. Everton too at the moment they are 16th on the Premier League table with 15 points out of 16 games. In game week 16, Everton got a 0-0 draw against Arsenal, and Chelsea got a 2-1 victory over Brentford in game week 16. Going to this game at the Goodison Park in game week 17 is going to be a tough game. I know Chelsea this season, they are the team with the most goals in the Premier League. Going against an Everton team who don't concede much, they are the team with the most clean sheet this season. So going to this game is going to be a tough game. Can Enzo Maresca team break down this defensive mindset game against Everton? Going to this game, my prediction for this game, I'm predicting Chelsea to get a 3-1 victory over Everton. Chelsea 3, Everton 1. Moving on to the next game is between Fulham versus Southampton. In game week 16, Southampton lost 5-0 against Tottenham Hotspur in game week 16. Fulham also got a 2-2 draw at Anfield against Liverpool. Looking at the league table, Fulham at the moment they are on the Premier League table with 24 points out of 16 games, and Southampton at the moment they are the bottom 20th on the league table with 5 points out of 16 games. Going to this game in game week 17 is going to be a walkover game for Fulham. I'm predicting Fulham to get a 4-1 victory over Southampton. Fulham 4, Southampton 1. Yes, moving on to the next game in game week 17 at the King Power Stadium is between Leicester City versus Wolves. In game week 16, Leicester City lost 4-1 against Newcastle United, and Wolves also stayed home and lost 2-1 against Ipswich Town in game week 16. Looking at the league table, Leicester at the moment they are now 17th on the Premier League table, and going to this game against a team who is also now 19th on the Premier League table. Looking at the league table, well, I think this season Wolves are underperforming and they just sacked their manager. So going to this game, I think there will be a manager bounce. Even though Leicester also sacked their coach recently and we now have Ruud van Nistelrooy as their head coach. Going to this game, I think because Wolves just sacked their coach, there will be a manager bounce. And well, going to this game, I'm predicting a draw game. My prediction for this game, Leicester City 2, Wolves 2. Yes, so moving on to the next game at Old Trafford is between Manchester United versus AFC Bournemouth. Looking at the standing at the moment, AFC Bournemouth they are sixth on the Premier League table with 25 points out of 16 games. And Manchester United at the moment they are 13th on the Premier League table with 22 points out of 16 games. In game week 16, Manchester United got a 2-1 victory in their derby game against Manchester City. AFC Bournemouth also drew 1-1 against West Ham in game week 16. Going to this game in game week 17 is going to be a very tough and interesting game. And we know Manchester United in recent times they have not been performing against Bournemouth, and we know last season Bournemouth did the back-to-back win over Manchester United. And going to this game, I don't think nothing is going to change. I'm predicting AFC Bournemouth to get a 2-0 victory over Manchester United. Bournemouth 2, Manchester United 0. Yes, moving on to the next game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is between Tottenham Hotspur versus the league leaders Liverpool. In game week 16, Liverpool sat at Anfield and got a 2-2 draw against Fulham, and Tottenham Hotspur also went to the St Mary's Stadium and got a 5-0 victory over Southampton in game week 16. Looking at the league table, Liverpool is on top of the Premier League table with 36 points out of 15 games. Tottenham Hotspur too at the moment they are 10th on the Premier League table with 23 points out of 16 games. Going into this game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in game 17 is going to be a very tough and hot game. Going into this game, I'm predicting this game to end in a draw. I'm predicting Tottenham Hotspur 2, Liverpool 2. Yeah, so this has been my prediction for Premier League game week 17. I know my video is late. Please like, subscribe, and comment your predictions and your thoughts. My name is Andy Fana. Till we meet in another video. Bye bye for now.